G'day, legends, and welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jared, and joining us tonight are Sean, John, and Liam. How are you, John?
I'm good, Jared. There was some really shitty technical difficulties there at the beginning, but managed to get through it, and here I am.
That's why I threw to you to just test it all out nice and early.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Can, and you can figure it out in the background. How you going, Sean?
Champion, mate. Just champion. I'm just getting over my hangover from the weekend.
And Liam?
Oh, I'm good. I was a really sunny day here today, so I was up a local mountainside visiting a temple. You know, from the top of that mountain, you can see almost all the prefecture, and from that great height, I still couldn't see the Rangers coming.
Celtic card joke. Here we go. Boo. Hope everyone tuning in has enjoyed the last week in particular. A couple of games there where we, in the league, sealed it, and then just had a great time being a Celtic fan. I know I've enjoyed it. So just before we crack on, we'll get into it. So if you can subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast via your podcast app, that would be appreciated. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a review. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under YouTube channel as well. We want to really grow that. So hopefully by the start of next season, we're sitting at about at least 1,000 subscribers. We're about halfway there at the moment, so happy days. So we'll get straight into the weekend's game where Celtic 6, Motherwell 0. Happy days. So we'll go to the starting lineup. Pretty much as expected. Joe Hart in goals. Ralston, Carter-Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor. Rogic, McGregor, Turnbull. That was the one for me that was the 50-50. I thought maybe there'd be O'Reilly. And then you had Jota, Kyogo, and Maeda up front. So, Sean, what was your take on the starting lineup and your overall thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I was out in the city with the Perth CSE. They had a pub crawl before. I skipped the first couple of hours just so I could make sure I was relatively sober by the time we kicked off, and we were all chatting in the pub about whether Rogic, Beton, or Julian would all get farewell starts. There's quite a bit of debate on it. We kind of all settled on Rogic definitely, Beton probably, and Julian probably not because of his toys out the pram interview with the French media. And we were almost right. So yeah, Rogic got his hour, then his ovation, and then Beton got the last bit to get his farewell. And apart from that, no real surprises. The front three rotated back to what it was last week, which was kind of what was expected. Good game though. But I was a bit shitty at the end because I had a bet on 7-0, so I was just short of cashing in.
And Liam, what was your thoughts when you saw the lineup and your overall thoughts on the game?
Well, I had a similar thing as Sean there because my dad had Celtic to win 3 or 4-0, and I had 8-0, and it finished 6-0. So between us, we managed to miss it. So no, it was a magnificent game of football. It was the old cliche in Hollywood is that when you make a good movie, you always leave the audience wanting more. And I cannot wait for more of this Celtic team next season. I just cannot wait.
100% agree with you on that, Liam. I'm actually upset that the season's over. It was so enjoyable towards the end, and just really, really enjoyed it. And can't wait for the season to begin. And usually it's a 2-week break, and then we're straight back into pre-season qualifiers and Champions League qualifiers and all that stuff. And we actually get a break this time, so it gives us something to do. Have a bit of a break, look at other things on the podcast, and go from there. But John, what was your thoughts on the lineup and overall on the game?
Well, the lineup to me wasn't very surprising. I always thought Rogic was going to get his farewell start sort of stuff. Everything else was pretty, as to be expected. So no massive shocks there. I think I said last week on the pod that I might have believed that there was going to be some rotation and things like that. Maybe seeing people like Dembele getting a start, and none of that happened. So that might tell us a lot there. There's so much to unpack from the game, to be honest. First of all, yes, like we've all said, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing that we won 6-0 on our last game of the season. There's a couple of things I wanted to bring up. First one, Turnbull, absolutely brilliant seeing him playing back to the way we're used to and the way that we've expected him to play. Great goal for him. Very Rogic-esque, actually. There was a very similar one. Rogic falling to the ground. I think it might have been a semi-cup final, or it might have just been a semi-cup final, a semi-final in a cup, or it might have been the final. Can't remember, but it doesn't matter. I also thought that we have a major problem here now at Celtic, which is who the hell do we start up front, Giakoumakis or Kyogo? That is our biggest problem now with this team.
That's why
honestly, I cannot tell you who I would play for big games. I couldn't tell you. We now have the luxury up front where we get to pick a type of attacker dependent on our opposition. I don't think I've ever been a fan when that's been a situation. Honestly, astonishing. And the last one I wanted to bring up as a point, that ping from Carter Vickers to Maeda for Giakoumakis' second goal. That's defenders have no right to be able to ping a ball like that. That was astonishing. So those are my little takeaways that from the game that I seem to remember off the top of my head. But
I'll jump on something you said there, John, about the striker situation. Now I'm just going back in the last decade, right? And you go back to Lenny's first run where you had Stokes and Hooper, but they played as a two. So it wasn't like you had to pick one or the other. Then you had
who did you sacrifice though?
Yeah. And then you go to Ronnie, and it was Griff up front pretty much doing his thing. Then you go to Rogers, and he had Dembele, he had Griffiths, and then we had Edouard as a developing player. Then you get Eddie in, and now that's pretty much one main guy. And now we're in this thing where we're like, who is it? We've got 3 guys or 4 guys that could rotate through that spot and do the job. It's great to have options.
It certainly is. It definitely is. I thought about maybe next season we would see both of them playing up front. What do we go back to, a 3-5-2? That never seemed to really work for us. Well, actually, I tell a lie. That it worked for a while with Griff and Edwards, but when Griff went off the bloody wagon in more ways than one, then it stopped really working.
I can answer that for you if you want to know.
Yeah, go on.
When Ange wants to change it up like that and put 2 strikers, what he used to do at Brisbane Raw was he'd play Bessart Barisha as his main centre forward. In the same way, he'd have Giakoumakis in there. And then he had Costa Barbarouses when he was playing as more central as a striker, running off the back of him, playing in the number 10 role. Which you could put Kyogo there to play off the back of Giakoumakis. That could be something we're seeing as part of the evolution in phase 2 of Ange ball. That's a possibility, especially with Rogic on.
We played 3-5-2 in that St Johnstone game.
So there's options.
We won.
Yep.
But yeah. Look, I think it's just going to be a case of, one of them plays 60 minutes on a Saturday and 30 minutes midweek, and vice versa. That's just how it's going to go, as long as they're both fit and firing, I think. And it'll just be one of them will be shitty about being the player that's coming off the bench in the Champions League.
It's pretty easy then. If you're coming off the bench in the Champions League and you're not happy, then go out in the league on the weekend and bang in a hat-trick. There you go. Earn your spot.
Yeah.
Not bad, eh? Not bad.
I'm sure we'll talk about that more when we do next week. We'll be doing our season review podcast. So we'll, and then the week after that, we'll probably more than likely be doing our forward planning and talking about what we want to see and that could even be part of the season review. So we'll discuss this in more details then. But just going through the game on the weekends to bring it back to that. So Kyogo had 2 goals, Turnbull had a goal, Jota had a goal, and then you had Giakoumakis with 2. Now, I'll throw to you, Liam. Talk us through those goals. Which ones were your favourites? If you're unsure, feel free to handball to Sean or John.
I mean, the one that stands out just for pure class is obviously the Giakoumakis overhead kick. But I thought Kyogo's second goal was really, really beautifully taken. Very reminiscent of something you would see Henrik Larsson do back in the day. That way that the ball just almost kind of glided off his foot. He didn't even really notice how he made contact with it. Just the ball came to him and suddenly it just floated into the net. Beautiful. So those were the two that really stood out for me. But every goal was well crafted in its own way. Like John said, that the ball from Carter Vickers for the was it Giakoumakis' second goal? Or was it the Jota goal? Which one?
No,
anyway,
Giakoumakis' second, yeah.
Sorry, Giakoumakis' second, yeah. That's great. I mean, we literally have attacking threat from all over the pitch now. And it's so good to see. And as Jared said earlier, it's a shame the season's ending when it is, because I'd love to see another 5 or 6 games with us in this vein of form. But hopefully, after a good rest, we can get back to it next year. That's pretty much all I've got to say about it. Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll just jump in off the back of that, Liam. The thing, you're talking about that second Kyogo goal, and that's the goal that was a pick of the litter for me, but it wasn't necessarily the goal. Yes, it was a great finish, but the ball from Ralston through for that.
Oh, yeah, magnificent.
That is what made it. To me, the goal is great. It was unbelievable technique to finish that, but the ball from Tony Ralston, sexual football, that's the easiest way to describe it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Motherwell, our backline was just so high up the pitch, man. Like, I didn't see any heat maps, but you'd be surprised to see too many touches for the defenders in the Celtic half. They were just so high up. And Motherwell were actually doing a fair job of putting up a stubborn resistance. And like the goals that we scored were not easy goals, they were the kind of ones you need a bit of good fortune or a bit of skill or a bit of brilliance. And 3-0 at half time actually felt a little harsh on Motherwell, the way they had put up that resistance quite well. But then in the second half, it could have been anything, and they were actually lucky to keep the score down. And I know I'm sick of like opposition managers coming out and making excuses, but that was another one after the game. Was Alexander was making the excuse that there was illness in the squad and some such another. I'm getting a bit sick of it, to be honest. Like, we've won 4 games by 6 or 7 goals. Like, just be magnanimous in defeat. Don't be making excuses. Do you know what I mean?
Brought up a comment here from Strangelove the Doctor. Kyogo's second goal was my favourite. The skill level to maintain eyes on the ball over his shoulder and know where the goal was while blind was amazing.
Yeah, you can't teach that. It's instinctive.
But he also knows where the goalkeeper is, because if you think about the cup final one, he lobs the goalkeeper, whereas this time he's gone low. Do you know what I mean? It's
amazing goal, ridiculous. I think I couldn't remember who did. I want to say it's Wayne Rooney, but there's another. It might have been like someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but there's a similar goal that gets continuously repeated on any sort of Sky Sports BT nonsense, but where he did a very similar thing. I think it was at a slightly further distance, but it was considered one of the best goals in English football. Do you know what I mean? The ball comes over your shoulder and you hit it on a volley and you still beat the keeper. That's ridiculous talent. Ridiculous.
You'd be surprised if someone like Brendan Rodgers wasn't in for Kyogo this summer.
Well, somebody, definitely someone's going to come chapping at the door.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to, like, Kyogo's 27, do you know what I mean? Like, if he's going anywhere, it's now, do you know what I mean? Like,
he's not going anywhere.
Come on, don't do that, Sean. Don't be the buzzkill.
No, I mean, by next year, EPL teams will not be interested. It'll be Championship teams.
Yeah. So get him in, the Champions League. It does the job there, and then come the January window, go from there.
Yeah, after Japan have won the World Cup, we can name our price.
Exactly. $4 billion.
But I just think EPL teams just don't sign strikers that are that age from outside England. And so if he does well at the World Cup and Champions League, then it's like he's going to be off to like Bayer Leverkusen or like Valencia, somewhere, like someone that's just outside the top 2-3 of those countries. Not the EPL just aren't interested in players that age.
Yeah. So
Right.
what you're saying is it's not going to be big money, right? It's going to be
Exactly.
if he goes in, I don't know, 2 seasons, it might be for something relatively modest.
Yeah, it's Frimpong money.
Yeah.
If you want more than that, let's be honest. He'll have 2 years left on his contract at the end of next season. So
But
won't
when
have to
that's sorry to interrupt you, Jared. No, I was going to say when it's that kind of money, you at that point you do a value of is what's his worth to us scoring goals for 2 years versus what this team is offering, and they tend to stay and leaving a free when you do that balance.
I look at it exactly like that and go, well, if he was to do well in the Champions League, and then you're only getting the 11.5 million Frimpong money, as you just mentioned, Sean. Sorry, but the goals he's going to get for the league, for us in the league, and also in Europe, to get back into the Champions League again the following year and bring in that $30-40 million a pound pot again, it's not worth selling him for 11 million.
No,
I'd rather keep him and let him go on a free once his contract's up, as you just said. Like Lawrence Connolly in the comments is saying, Kyogo will go for at least £20 million.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's more like
if it's this summer, yes.
Yeah, this summer, yeah. But look, Liam, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would imagine it's uncommon for players to come from the J League to just arrive at a club to then move on at the immediate next window. Surely that's
especially when we're looking at this through green tinted specs, right? We all know Kyogo's a phenomenal player, but at the end of the day, he's played half a season.
Mm-hmm.
There is, if you're another team, look at it objectively, you'd say, is he injury prone? Maybe, we don't know. Is he going to settle? He's settled at Celtic, but he's got 3 other Japanese players there to help him settle in. So how's he going to handle it if he has to go to a team in London where nobody speaks Japanese? Plus, just Kyogo's character, from what I know about him in his career before Celtic, to this day he maintains good contact with the amateur club FC Gifu where he started his career. He is the sort of guy who's loyal, and I know they say, there's all footballers are mercenaries these days, whatever. Right? If funny money came in for him, he would be off. We all know that, but it would need to be funny money. And I don't think Kyogo is the type of character who would actively agitate for a move either. It's not going to be like the Edward or the Boyata situation where a guy throws a tantrum because he doesn't get the move he wants and downs tools. I think Kyogo will either, like the commenter Lawrence just said, either go for 20 million plus next year or this summer, or he'll stay and see out his contract and possibly even go beyond that.
So we've got another comment from Strangelove Doctor where he's like, I'm not sure. I think the cadre of Japanese lads are here to stay for years. It's a weak clan we're building here. Why would you want to leave?
See, that's the thing. I agree with that because like the team spirit thing is a massive part of the Japanese psyche, and the idea of the 4 of them doing something together, especially if we can make some kind of impact in the Champions League next year, that's going to really be something special,
If we make it 5 and bring in Ko Itakura, still want him.
Yeah.
Schalke got promoted, unfortunately, so I don't think that's happening.
I was reading today they don't have the finances to pay the 5.5 million to make it permanent that Man City wanted for him.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
Financial difficulties because of Gazprom sponsors and don't make repairs.
See from the scenes after the game, right? I'd be very shocked if bar obviously Rogic and Bitton, and also Julian. I don't see anybody else moving on, to be honest. I think I would be very shocked. It would have to be very much be like a fringe player. I think the core players that we have, especially from the way that we're playing, I think seem very close knit, and like Strangelove the Doctor said, it's a clan we're building. It's a team. It's that we're definitely at the beginnings of something special, and I just don't see it being dismantled in 6 months. I just don't see that happening. No shocking transfer exits are going to happen. Touch wood next transfer window.
The only way I see it happening is if we get that £20 million offer for Kyogo, and I mean I stress Postecoglou has already got his eye on someone that's worth like 8 or 9 million and needs that money to fund it, and who he believes is better than Kyogo. That's the only way I see it happening.
A lot of ifs and buts, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think Kyogo's going to go anywhere. Let's just be honest. He's going to stay at least for another 12 months. That's my opinion. But what I'm hoping for is, and what you're saying, John, about you don't really see anyone major moving on, there's going to be probably a good 10, 12 people leaving. But it's going to be all those guys around the outside. Like you've got Rogic and Bitton going. You'll probably lose Julian. And then you're going to have guys like a Yeti, Dembele,
Barkas,
all those sort of guys around the edge. A lot of the young guys we brought in, you might see Liam Shaw go, because do you see him breaking into the team? I don't. So you'll see him go, or a Giddy will go. You'll see a bunch of those sort of blokes all around the outskirts of it. Mikey Johnson might go. You never know. These sort of blokes will leave, and then that'll free up the wage bill, and some money will come in, and then what will you have? Then Ange will have not just the money from the Champions League getting into spend, but he'll have whatever we make on that, plus a wage budget that he can go out and sign 2 or 3 players to fit in and do what he needs to and actually be first team starters, those guys. So the guys starting this year run the risk of, do they start, or are they going to be coming off the bench now and having to win their spots back? And then if you've got that level of competition within the squad, what happens? You're off to the races.
Mikey Johnson's 23 now, so like you need 3 things really to make it at Celtic. You need ability, you need mentality, and you need physicality. And he has ability in absolute spades, but he does not have any of the other 2 things.
Totally agree with that. Spot on.
I think you also need a wee bit of luck, and he doesn't really seem to have much of that either.
It's Ryan Christie all over again. Ryan Christie stepped up when he looked like he was done, and Mikey Johnson does not look like he's going to. And I'm really reluctant to see him go, because I think he's so talented, but you need more than that.
I think especially when you see what Ange has done with some of the other players, like Bitton and Rogic, for example, they had arguably the best season they've had in years last season. And, Joe Hart, another one who was in the wilderness and has been completely rejuvenated. So if Ange can have that effect on those type of players, and obviously the same style of management Mikey Johnson's playing under it, but he's not kicking on like those guys have, that makes you think that the problem might be with the player rather than the way he's being managed, unfortunately. So he's maybe just not quite at the level we need.
Yeah, well, I've got my list here of guys I think will be outgoing. Something I've written it down here about a week ago. So Dembele, Julian, Bolly, Ayeti, Barkas, Sorrow, Hazard, Doohan, Bain, potentially. Bitton is gone. Rogic is gone. And then you've got McCarthy, question mark, and Johnson. As Strangelove, the doctor, said in the comments here, the squad needs balanced. But as a Scottish lad, you require a homegrown quota for Champions League, so MJ still has a part to play. So maybe we'd keep him and then second half of the season loan him. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at.
The McCarthy one's an interesting one. I think that's going to depend on who ends up becoming the de facto replacement for Bitton. Is it Ideguchi or is it McCarthy?
Well, Andrew said that he wants to bring in another central midfielder. So
we need one. Look, people can disagree, but I don't really rate Ideguchi very highly. I think he's at best going to be a squad player. I haven't seen enough of him. I haven't seen enough of him to be convinced that he's going to be, I don't know, any more than just in and around the squad. I don't think he's good. I mean, look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong and looked a fool, but nah, not.
He's looked brilliant in the J League. He's never done it anywhere else yet. That's the problem.
Let's just say he can't be worse than Sorrow. And
oh no, well yeah. Sorrow had a spate of games. I'd say, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 games where he was ridiculous, just non-stop running, clearing up everything. And now he's just, I don't know, something went wrong there.
And then the refs started carding him every 20 seconds he's on the pitch.
Well, yeah.
Also, on reflection, how pish for the rest of the team at that time. Maybe that made him look a bit better than he actually was.
Yeah,
here's one for you guys. Scott Robinson's coming back from loan. There's an option for the midfield as well that I hadn't even thought of.
He'll be going back out on loan though, I think.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and we've got so much time to talk about over the next few pods. But I just wanted to, I just brought him up then, and you've just touched on in there, John, about Gucci. That was my one other player I wanted to talk about from the weekend. I had two other things from the game I wanted to quickly touch on. Gucci, overall thoughts on him. Liam, what are your thoughts? Because John's just said he doesn't rate him.
Yeah.
So overall,
potential. He's got potential, but he needs a run of 4 or 5 games in the team at least before we can make any real judgment.
Sean,
I've seen him do it in the J League. I know what he's capable of. The difference is, can he transfer that? Because 15 years ago in the J League, Shinsuke Nakamura and Koki Mizuno were both rated as big prospects. Nakamura got his move to Europe, eventually ended up at Celtic and was a legend, right? Koki Mizuno, a few years later, was being hyped up as the next Naka, got a move directly to Celtic and never broke into the team. Doing it in the J League is not a guarantee you're going to do it in Europe. And the problem is, for every Nakamura, there's 5 or 6 Mizunos. And in Kyogo, we've got a Nakamura type player. In Maeda, I think it's beginning to show we have another player who, totally different type of player, but in the same sense of he can come from Japan and do the business in Europe. Gucci is the one who still has to prove something. And Hatate kind of still has to prove himself as well, I think, because he's faded badly towards the end of the season.
give me his off season. Get a pre-season.
he's exhausted.
Yeah, what? No, yes. I mean, yeah.
He's running on empty. It's like,
winning 2 championships in the space of 4 months isn't easy,
Tough life collecting medals. Strange like the doctor with this comment. I want Conan, the central midfielder, a real righteous goon, to send out and protect out and defend our ball players when the ref won't. So basically, you want someone like Bruni.
Yeah. I was going to say he's the Fleetwood manager now.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, I've not seen
that sort of role. That's going to sound odd, and it will keep your Scottish quota up for your Champions League. Just thought, bring in Lewis Ferguson. That'll cut amongst the pigeons with the other mob across town.
I thought Conan is Conan not Irish?
I think I correct me wrong, but I thought it was Conan the Barbarian.
That's what I was.
Yeah. No, is he not talking about the lad that's on at St Mirren? They've on loan from Wolves. Is that what he's talking about?
Not quite possible.
Oh no, that's Connor. Oh, that's Connor Rohan. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm thinking of Connor Rohan.
I took it as a Conan the Barbarian reference as well. I don't know.
Sorry, my bad. I'm thinking of Connor Rohan, not Conan.
Right.
My bad.
Anyway,
Rohan the Barbarian.
Last thing I wanted to touch on. Yep, nope, the Barbarian.
Yep.
The last thing I wanted to touch on was a class move by Ange on the game on the weekend. So technically, everyone got their medal, but to have it on your record as you actually are a league winner, you got to play 25% of the league games. So you got to play 10 games. So McCarthy had played 9 and Welsh had played 9. So when he subbed them both on, guaranteed them in the record books they were actually league winners. So class act from Ange on that front. Didn't think he'd do anything like that, but, well played, sir.
Yeah, how did the translator play?
But the one they get on the day is not the medal. That's just like a presentation medal. The one they actually get is like, honest to God, it's like the size of a 10-pence piece. And it gets sent out to them like 2 or 3 weeks later. It just looks nothing like the one they get for the presentation. That's why when Jose Mourinho's chucking his medal into the crowd and everyone's, oh my God, it's not the real medal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a show one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
I'm sure there's still, even having that show medal has probably got some sentimentality attached to it, but it's not the actual medal.
That's probably why they handed it out to staff as well then, right?
Yeah, they just have a big box room and everyone that comes up. There's probably like pitch invaders coming on and grabbing one. Do you know what I mean? Some kid with a sign. Like,
do you guys see the security guard level that person? He come on the back.
I certainly did.
Absolute idiot. What a great hit though. Like, give that person a jersey, you know, Bobo Baldy style, put him in the back line.
Yeah.
I was expecting a kid to have a sign that said, "Rylan, could I have your cinch medal?"
It is nice to think, though, isn't it, that you know, our Kyogo's translator has now got as many medals as Alfredo Morelos.
Yeah, man.
I know it's not real, but I'm going to enjoy it anyway, right? I'm going to sit with that image and enjoy it.
Some players, like, whenever these things happen, there's some players that just appear, and I'm like, why did you even think, like, that it was appropriate to go out there celebrating? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's been ones in the past, and it's like, who are? Do you know what I mean? Like, what was his name? Marvin Compere would come out to collect winners' medals at the end of the season. I'm like,
I was like, I mean, like, coming out with the trophy, and you see him in the tunnel, and I'm like, who the hell is that with the sunglasses on? And I go, hang on, that's a Yeti. Oh, I haven't seen him all season.
Yeah. No, that was a bit odd, wasn't it? That, like, I'd have to read into it much, but a bit disrespectful, wasn't it, for IIT to be walking around in sunnies, or at least a lack of caring.
To quote my dad, I'm surprised to see a jetty. I was beginning to think he was a tax dodge.
All right, so let's move it along a little bit. So, Liam.
Oh, there you go. Very fitting.
Choo-choo.
Train break. Perfect.
Oh, sorry.
How was the media coverage of Celtic's title win over in Japan?
It's been great. It was all over the sports pages on Monday, and the fact that Kyogo scored 2 of the goals kind of really helped to elevate it as well, because it was strange, because when we actually won the league on Wednesday last week, there was some reporting of it, but it seems like they were holding back until they could get all the good camera shots of, like, people with a trophy and the medals and whatever. I mean, that the image which I shared in our group chat the other day of my new desktop background at work, which is the 4 Japanese boys with the league trophy. That was the back page of one of the national dailies the other day. And it's great because the Japanese players been getting a huge amount of coverage, but so has Ange, because it's a J League manager who has gone to Europe and done the business as well as J League players. So Ange's success is also a validation of the J League, as much as Kyogo, Maeda, and Hatate are, you know.
Yeah, we're seeing the same over here with I've never seen so much media coverage for Celtic in my life over here. Like, you had Rogic and that on the project the other day. You've got just mainstream media, newspapers, the works. It's just insane, the coverage. And you're saying that Ange's success is a success for the J League. It's also as much a success for the A League and the old NSL over here as well. It's great to see that glass ceiling finally being broken for our managers. As I've said, our players have proven they can go to Europe and do the job. Now our managers have. So long may it continue.
Does that mean that the Scottish media are going to be all over it when Steven Gerrard gets his medal for 14th place in the EPL? His trophy.
Probably.
Avoided relegation cup.
They're too busy chasing ambulances at the moment, literally, in Seville.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go down that route.
Yeah.
Leave that one right alone, especially because it's like 24 hours till the game. I don't want to, comment on it, although I hope you pricks lose.
The one thing I say is I'm not going on Twitter for the next few days. The build up to it's been rancid. Like, what Iona Fife. Every time I go on, it's full of whatever is happening to Iona Fife, and it is absolutely destroying my faith in humanity.
Oh, the wee bit of karma with that, though, was beautiful, though. Did you see what happened to one of the Huns that was abusing her?
Yeah, I got kicked off the flight and arrested.
Kicked off his flight 20 minutes later.
Yeah. Emergency landings, all that stuff. Who was it, the bingo cards? Have we shared that?
Yeah, aye.
heavy-handed policing, Chelsea fans, all that stuff.
Hang on, I forgot to do this then.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Over here in Australia, the coverage has been pretty good, but it's a lot of it's kind of on the it's certainly what I've seen has been on the back of Postecoglou actually doing a lot of Zoom interviews with media outlets over here. So he must have like pre-existing relationships, and they're tapping him on the shoulder, and that's kind of how it's coming to me.
Yeah, it is a bit that way, Sean, and also like Tom Rogic doesn't talk, right? He doesn't do media very often. He did earlier in the season. He goes like the whole quote of "I've been on top of the league. That's nothing unusual for us," sort of thing, and that went down like a ton of bricks over in Scotland. Other than that interview, until this week, I had not heard him do an interview in a good, before that one was a good couple of years. Even when he's out here for the Socceroos, he doesn't really talk to the media. So, yeah, it's good to get him out there having a chat and everything, and you had him in the media as well and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's we got a farewell to Rogic and Bitton, but I want to quickly loop before we get into that. I'll loop back to the old Seville thing. Jota and Starfelt harassed on the plane while going to Ibiza. Podcast Respect the Champions after Starfelt's Instagram story that he put up after all that happened. Disgusting behaviour, especially putting a sticker on Jota's head and all that sort of stuff. Don't expect any better from them though.
Well, if they think it's bad now, just wait until they find out they can't get a train from Ibiza to Seville.
I don't want to say too much about them confirming what we already know about them, but all I'll say is I've never seen or heard of something like that happening with a Sevco player and a Celtic fan.
No.
No, I mean, I'll be honest, if I was out and about and I bumped into, I don't know, James Tavernier or something, I'd probably want my photo taken with him, get his autograph. Good footballer, I have that respect. Oh, look, right, okay, bad example.
I get what you mean, but yeah.
Aye, right, no, not Tavernier.
You know what I'd do, Liam? If I saw him, I'd get penalty and just keep walking. That's what I would do. That's about all that would happen. That's the only acknowledgement he'd get from me. Like, it's nowhere near as bad as.
I'd ask for his autograph and say, "Do you need a pen?" He says, "What are you, referee?" Anyway.
If he's playing football in my garden, I wouldn't open the curtains. Honestly, God.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is I would not be overtly hostile to the guy just because he plays for them. Because plenty of decent people just happen to play for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't expect any different though, do we? That's just and the only point I'll make on it, and I'm really not going to talk about Seville and them and all that stuff, but it was what I found as a good outcome of that event, as much as it wasn't a very good situation, was I think both of them conducted themselves, Starfelt and Jota conducted themselves very well and very professionally and stuff. Like there was no videos or like, reports of them turning around and losing the plot and stuff and screaming at anyone. They just took it and walked off, and that was it. So that was, that was good.
I mean,
they've also learned.
Sorry, go ahead. Sure.
They've also learned a lesson that they're millionaires and they don't have to get an EasyJet flight.
That's definitely the other thing.
The funny thing is actually, like, just very last point on all this, but there's actually been a kind of going back and forth. What is going to be more troublesome for the Spanish police is if they win or if they lose, because either way there's going to be riots, and it's like genuinely I don't know which one would be more, because we saw what they did to Glasgow last season,
and done to Manchester previously as well in Europe. So
and it's like win or lose, they're going to trash the place,
Yeah. Well, it's all right. It's fine. Super Ali's told them to be on their best behaviour, so that's them being told. So
these videos, absolute pisser.
They'll be at home in their beds at 10:30, and it'll be fine, and they'll just go to bed, and nothing will happen. Do you believe me?
Let's stop talking about those Cretans.
Absolutely. Let's move on.
On to the next topic then. So, with Gordon Strachan being reappointed as Dundee's director of football, magically, Gavin Strachan is now the favourite for the Dundee manager's job. Your thoughts, Sean?
That news actually first landed on me as a Simpsons meme, the one where Homer makes Bart the quarterback. It's like Gordon Strachan, like, this is my son Gavin. He'll still be your friend, but now we just call him manager Gavin Strachan, kind of thing. And it is absolutely hilarious. It's like, right, I've appointed my mate. That didn't work. Who's next? Poor Dundee fans. Like, maybe Gavin Strachan would be great, but that is just naked nepotism in the same way that Mark McGee appointment was.
My opinion on it, real simple. Get your own laptop, Gavin. If you're going to go there, you got to leave our one behind. But if he goes, good luck to him. Andrew will probably fill that spot with, I'm sure he'll find someone within the academy, or if he wants to, he'll bring someone over. But yeah, I actually want to just touch on the support staff with how much crap they copped this time last year under Lenny and how bad the season was. To then see Kennedy and Strachan this year and Stevie Woods as well because of the goalkeeping situation, how bad it was last year, to where they are now with Joe Hart and the goalkeeper situation as well. Fair turnaround for the support staff. So, yeah, they did well this season as well as the manager and got on board with it. So if he leaves, next man up. That's the way I look at it. But if he stays, I'm happy for him to stay at Celtic as well.
The other name was Darren O'Day, who played for Dundee, which is, I guess, where it's coming from. But is he our B team, not even the B team head coach, he's a B team like assistant coach for us. Yeah. That one actually would be a good move for him, I guess. Like, that's a big step up for Darren O'Day. I'd be surprised if they went for someone that's not got that kind of higher level experience. So I reckon if Scott Brown was, I don't know why he wasn't mentioned for it, to be honest. Paul Hartley's been mentioned as well. All ex-Celtic players. It's a bit of a strange one, to be honest, and it does kind of smell like Strachan's just going into his notebook and seeing who's the best available, doesn't it?
Yeah, strange all the doctors going, it's a risky job to take. Dundee's border crazy. I wouldn't take it.
It's a potential CV destroyer because that's a team that if they don't get any money, they could easily go down another league.
It's the same way Hibs is as well. At the moment with that Gordon bloke there, absolute nightmare. So,
yeah.
Do you not feel like it's maybe just not pundit, bookie speculation with Gavin? Old man's there, therefore it's not been. It's just it's just bookies putting two and two together.
Easy link to make.
Yep.
He started in sack, and he's going to get the sack.
It's a silly season for that now because there's very little football left to be played. I fully expect the next couple of weeks to see Ange getting linked with a Chelsea job or something stupid like that. It's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen. Scottish
media, just wait till they start. All right. Anyone else got any other names you want to throw up for it? I'll throw up. It's linked to the Hibs job, but I'll throw it up there as well. Ronnie.
That would be awesome.
Ronnie Dyler stepping down from champion of the USA to take the job in the championship with Dundee.
I'm joking around with that one. But did you see who's linked with Hibs? Who was the guy who bagged out Rangers? Was it John Dale Thomason?
The Malmo manager, yeah.
Yeah, he's linked with the Hibs job. He's one of the favourites.
Again, he was in the Champions League this year. That doesn't make sense to me. But Sean Maloney also didn't make sense either. That seemed like a step down for him too. Hibs is a funny one, Dave. If I'm going from, I wrote this down a while ago and I forgot now the exact number, but it's something like 4 managers have been sacked in Scotland this year, and 2 of them were Hibs in the top flight, I should say, if I remember that correctly. Again, I'm just
that's a tainted chalice over there as well, then, isn't it?
Yeah. So like there was James McPake, Sean Maloney, Jack Ross, and the other one was, can't remember off the top of my head now. Aberdeen, Stephen Glass. That's who it was. And nobody else has been sacked.
So, funny thing, Dundee, with what you're talking about, the 4 managers that were sacked, were they at one club or just in general?
2 at Hibs, 1 at Dundee, 1 at Aberdeen. Yeah.
So I'm seeing a bit of one of the guys linked to it is an ex-Western Sydney Wanderers manager over here, Carl Robinson, and he's been linked with Dundee and Hibs as well. And I'm like, if you go from Western Sydney, which is a bit of a basket case club at the moment, with their management situation over the last few years to a club like Dundee, which has the same deal, or Hibs, why would you do that to yourself?
Is he? Who did he play in Scotland? Carl Robinson? No,
I used to manage MK Dons. I know that much.
no, apparently didn't. He played for Wales a bunch. There you go. Interesting.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next topic because, it's a Celtic podcast and I know, off season, we're going to be talking a lot of crap over the next couple of weeks, just padding out the podcast, likely. Just being honest, everyone tuning in. But it's going to get emotional. I'm not crying. You're crying. Farewell to Tom Rogic and Nir Bitton. So we'll start with Nir Bitton. So let's go quickly get the thing up, but I'll throw to you, Sean, for your thoughts on Bitton's career overall at Celtic.
Bitton, unfortunately, will be remembered for two things, maybe three. One for that red card at Ibrox, where he pulled down a Fred and Morelos. Maybe also the red card against Midtjylland that cost us the Champions League qualification. And more importantly, for being a running joke that he was going to be starting at centre-back in Champions League qualifiers. And did so every year. And unfortunately for Nir Bitton, that will be the things he's remembered for. The other thing that I will...
You left out the meme. You left out the old meme of Chapman Bitton.
Yeah, the Sapnan Bitton, yeah. And look, actually, he was actually a great player in centre mid at times, very composed. One thing that I will also remember him for was when he tweeted out in support of the Israeli army and then had to hastily delete that. That's another thing that will stick in my mind. But yeah, he was a composed player. Whenever he came into the midfield, I felt comfortable, regardless of who we were playing. And I think he did get a bit stiffed by playing centre back when it's not really his position.
Yeah, so he's played just under 300 games for Celtic, 4 Scottish Cups, 6 League Cups, and 8 league titles. So he goes home with a very, very heavy trophy cabinet.
Mm-hmm. Somebody said he's the most decorated Israeli player ever.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was who's the commentator? Jerry who? Is it Jerry McCulloch? Anyway, the
McCulloch.
Celtic TV. Celtic TV commentator.
Jerry McCulloch.
Yeah, most decorated Israeli player ever.
I would mostly remember Bitton just as a guy who, was at Celtic for 9 years, but was probably less than 2 of those would he really be a first pick. He was always a squad player. But he was a guy who I don't remember ever creating any drama or bitching about not being in the team. He was clearly a guy who saw the bigger picture and knew how to be a team player. And as much as we make jokes and slag him, memes about him not being a defender, whatever, I respect the guy for that. And I respect the guy for having the principle to do that. So fair play to him. I hope he does well wherever he goes next.
Yeah, another thing that I'll remember is that I think he scored 1 long-range effort against Kilmarnock or something, and then for 5 years in a row, anytime he was on the pitch, he'd get put on any long-range free kicks, and I don't ever remember one of them going on target, which was a bit weird as well. He was dead keen on getting those long-range free kicks off target for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe he could do it in training. I don't know. I don't really understand it, but he did get put on them bizarrely.
I seem to remember him scoring a couple long range shots.
But they weren't free kicks, though, were they?
No, they certainly weren't free kicks. I don't remember him ever scoring a long range free kick, but he did score a couple of long range shots. To be fair, but yeah, I think I'll always remember him as probably a pretty decent player. Do you know what I mean? You were never going to get anything spectacular from him, but at the same time, it wasn't going to light the world on fire or anything. But yeah, nine good years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Served the club well, in my opinion. I think it was right time for him to move on. and yeah, may he go on to do whatever he wants to and be happy doing it. And yeah, it's just had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue that, if anything, we would have probably had this conversation last season, and it just didn't happen when he didn't move on, and then he kind of had a pretty, I would say, decent for bit on season this year, and it was kind of like, oh, I wouldn't mind if he stayed on, sort of thing, which was almost just made that a bit of a roller coaster for us, and that's why it's a bit more, we're giving him a bit more airtime and stuff because. He had a good season.
He's going out in a better
on a high
space with the fan base than he would have 12 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's well articulated. I couldn't get.
We're actually celebrating his career and what he's done for the club now. But if he left last year, we would have been like, "Oh, end of a crap season. See you later. Good riddance."
Not bothered.
So, yeah.
But that's the funny thing. That's this season. If you want to distill this season down to a single quote, right? During the game at Ibrox when we beat them 2-1, I looked at my dad and I said, right, time to bring on Ralston and Beaton to shore things up. And I thought, oh my God, would I ever have come close to saying that a year ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always good to have for when the ball was in the air. He was always good for an away game in Aberdeen or Livingston because when the ball wasn't on the ground, he was quite dominant in the midfield aerially.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so Strange Love the Doctor, his comment here. I always had time for Nero, good squad player, nice guy.
Yep. Here.
And then we get into Rogic. So, as an Australian Celtic fan, I'll take the lead on this one. I'm heartbroken. As the world stops spinning, maybe. Pigs are flying. Everything's backwards in the world right now. It just doesn't seem right. Nah, it's, with Rogic, just under 300 games, 6 league titles, 5 league cups, 5 Scottish cups. Had his injury issues, but above all else, his goals and his contribution. And I'm sitting there the other day, I'm watching the video Celtic put up on their YouTube channel, all the goals he's put in there. I didn't even know that he scored a couple of tap-in goals for us. I thought everything was just from the car park. That's just my memory of him. Like, what a player, what a guy. And I think Ange going to have to come shopping down under because it's so strange Celtic not having an Australian player in the squad. You go back to the turn of the 2000s when you had Viduka, and then after that you've had McDonald, and then after that you've had Rogic for so long. So it just seems odd when there's not one there. So we even had Arzani there at one point for a season or two when he got hurt. Strange Love the Doctor's asking how much did we pay for Rogic. I think it was about £450,000 all up. So
absolute bargain
for 9 years. It's 50 grand, basically 50 grand a year for the time he was at the club. Yeah, great player, great guy, and yeah, thanks for everything. Over to you, John.
Yeah, that Rogic leaving definitely hurt, to be honest. I think him getting very emotional as he was clapped off the pitch didn't do anybody's masculinity any good. That was not great to watch. Yeah, phenomenal player, absolutely phenomenal. Can absolutely turn a game on its head. Some massive goals he scored for us. He's probably scored, I want to say, the most infamous goal for Celtic, but probably maybe just one of the most infamous goals for Celtic. Scoring that winner to
the most iconic goal of the run, the 10. It's the easiest way to sum it up.
It's my background on my phone still.
Yeah, I said that one of the biggest privileges I've ever had was having watched that live, and Christ Almighty, it was what a goal it was, and at that point as well, because I think it was like the 92nd minute he fucking scored that, and you just thought at that point, after it was back and forth the entire game, and he's managed to put that in so late in the game, elation
with his right foot.
I'll remember that into the day I die. That was one of the best feelings ever. So yeah, it is a tough one, Rogic, moving on. But all good things must come to an end, and I genuinely hope he either moves on to a big team or he gets his big money move, and I don't know, maybe not a Saudi team, mind you, but maybe like I don't know, somewhere in UAE, get paid stupid money, and can retire happy.
There's links going around saying he's looking at going somewhere closer to home, but the talk is like he's not coming to the A League, which is good.
Yeah,
played
too
soon.
to come back to Australia, isn't he? Not happening.
There's talk of a couple of German clubs looking at him, which is going to be a bit quicker flight time. But the other one that I'm hearing, I don't know which team it is, but apparently there's clubs in Japan interested in him, and it wouldn't surprise me if you got Kevin Muscat over there at Marinos is trying to get him in there.
He's
the
sort
old team.
Rogic is the sort of player that would come to the J League and be an absolute star. There's quite a few guys who have got to about his age who have come to Japan and had like a second wind in their career, if you like. Guys like Lucas Podolski. Andres Iniesta was a bit older. I think he was about 35 when he came to.
David Villa did the same, didn't he?
Yeah, David Villa. I think Torres played here for a while as well, if I remember right. Diego Forlan at Cerezo Osaka. There's a whole host of them.
I will say, sorry, I thought you were finished.
And I was just going to say that Australia doesn't have that same pretentiousness that the likes of England or some of the bigger European countries would about, he's playing in the J League, that means he's semi-retired, we're never picking him again. I think he would still be able to play for the Socceroos.
Absolutely. It's only an 8 or 9 hour flight as well from Tokyo back to Sydney. If he's got to go back to Socceroos duties, and with his family being in Sydney and Canberra, like it's only 8 hours instead of a 24-hour flight back from Glasgow. So happy days.
Yeah.
The thing that I found most curious about it was that he's 6 months away from a testimonial. Well, 6 to 8 months away from a testimonial. Near Bitton's 12 months away from a testimonial. The timing of it makes me think that they wanted to leave last summer, and that Postecoglou persuaded them to stay for one more year, and that this has been in the pipeline all season, and that doesn't mean to say that I know where they're going. Bitton was quite revealed quite a lot of information about he wanted to stay in Europe, but would speak to any big Israeli team that wanted him. Rogic has said not a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a payday in Qatar, and that way he doesn't have to travel for the World Cup. I think he needs a break, and I think he wants to just take some of that pressure off. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a bit of an easy option, even if that's like a mid-table Spanish team or whatever, like just something with less pressure. That's what I think. Well, but it is a surprise. I would have loved to see them get a testimonial.
On that though, Sean, what you're saying about like being close to that, and you think the move they wanted to leave end of last season, well, and they hung around. Well, Ange actually said that in the same article where he's saying he wants another central midfielder, that the reason he brought in O'Reilly, Hatate, and all those guys in January was because this has been on the cards for Rogic and Bitton. So he knew at least one of them be looking to move on, so he had to sign players. So they could bet in and they'd be ready to hit the ground running, and off they go for next season. So he was already forward planning, knowing that these guys were wanting to leave.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it's all been handled so amicably with Celtic, with like the goodbye videos on YouTube and the cheerio interviews and whatever. Wherever Rogic and Bitton are going next, I think it's already been decided. It's not been announced yet, but I think they already know where they're going. And Celtic have obviously had to be agreeable to that. So I think it's just a case of maybe next couple of weeks they'll take some time out, then they'll come out and announce what they're doing next.
Very well, very well be, but because it is a bit odd them leaving without a team. So yeah, quite possibly.
To finish this topic on these boys up, strange of the doctor's comment on this one. Rogic, on the other hand, has made his way onto the hallowed ground of Lubo or Naka status. You take on that, guys. Go to you, Liam.
in terms of scoring very important goals at very important times in very important games, yes, absolutely. If you look back at the great Celtic goals, just the individual goals of the last 20 years, Naka's free kick against Man United, his goal against the Huns, they stand out. Lubo, obviously the 5-1 game, his first 2 goals against the Huns, and he done numerous other great goals throughout his career. But Rogic's goal to win the Invincible treble is up there in terms of an iconic Celtic memory. It's alongside Man United, alongside the goals against Rangers. It's up there.
It's interesting that comment, because my brother texted me at the weekend. I was watching the BN Sports, which means Sky Sports coverage. But my brother texted me saying, did Tom Boyd just say he thinks Rogic is more technically gifted than Lubo? And I wasn't listening. But anyway, it started a
He
conversation
sure
we
did.
had. Did he say it? Oh,
He sure did.
No.
Anyway,
Tom Rogic, I love you, but no. Just no.
But it started a conversation, and where I landed was that Rogic would be third place in my adult life, behind Lubo and Naka, and which is interesting coincidence with that comment there.
Yeah, look, I also can't really disagree with the comment at all. I was trying to put it in my head of if you were to classify the Celtic greats, Roderick's certainly not that sort of S tier player that we can think of many, but yeah, definitely in the A tier. I'd put Naka and Lubo and probably a few others. McGregor's getting quite close to getting into that as well, to be honest. So yeah,
I don't think he's as good a player as Naka or Lubo at their peak, right? But in terms of what he's done for Celtic at the time he was there, as impactful, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the impact for the big games, especially as well. So, yeah.
Motherwell and Aberdeen fans will be delighted to see him gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So he always loved a goal against them. Oh, them too. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
He did love a good Hun scalping.
Yeah. So, just guys, thanks for the memories, both of yous. If you ever listen to this, big time, you're back out this way. We want to talk to you if you ever want to get on a podcast, which will never happen, but I'll throw it out there anyway.
It may do, Jared. It may do. You never know.
No harm in asking. But
you never know.
Yeah, but it's thanks for the memories. Thanks for the ride. It's been great, and whoever takes on those tops is, especially whoever wears number 18 next, has got a lot to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Now, we'll wrap this podcast up. So next week's episode, as I touched on earlier, will be our season review. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna dig out our pre-season fearless predictions that we did at the start of the season. We'll read through them. We'll have a laugh. You guys in the comments are going to take the piss out of us. It's going to be hilarious, and we'll go through that, and then we'll figure that out. But boys, before we finish off, just if you haven't done so already, again, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast. Buy your podcast app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook. You can find our group by page and follow them. Instagram and Twitter at Celtic Down. Thanks for all the support this year. Really appreciate it. The podcast's grown absolutely massively this year. So appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to watch this or to listen in on an audio format. Thanks heaps. So we'll finish the podcast off with our final thoughts. So I'll start off with my one. Last Friday night in Melbourne, you had South Melbourne 3-0 down against Avondale, I think it was. Come back to win 4-3. And there's footage circulating on Twitter of the Celtic fans in the pub at South Melbourne afterwards, absolutely going ballistic. The South fans joining in. It's great to see the Ange love and the big party happening. So hopefully that continues, and I'll have to get down to South Melbourne at some point and watch them and take the whole podcast thing down there and see what happens. John, final thought.
Well, my final thought is very much about how you are supposed to have a street party when you win a league and the levels between us and the other side. I saw many videos and many pictures from what seemed to be a very fun day out. I'm very jealous. Most notably, my old man with a bloody green flare, being a thug. Jesus Christ, he's 60, by the way, 61 now he is. But one of the best things I saw, above all the, everybody tidying up after themselves and all that stuff, and no benches being broken, but was all of the Celtic fans parting, literally dividing each other, like splitting up and letting a young mum push her pram through the crowd so she could get to the other side. That's how you do a street party, guys. You have fun, but you don't really impact on the city. That's my final thought.
Sean.
Yep. Quick congratulations to Queen's Park, who just secured back-to-back promotions to get into the Scottish Championship 2 years after turning professional. So that's massive for them. Also, I heard a story about some Sevco fans stealing signs off the bus stops. Honestly, don't know where they get off.
Oh, yeah. How do I follow that? Well, I don't, because the bus has just shot right past me. Anyway, no, I'm going to be a wee bit serious here for a minute, guys. This season has been an amazing journey, both football and for me personally. The amount of stuff that's changed in my life in the last 9 or 10 months has been amazing. I overcame depression for the second time in my life. I got married. Celtic stopped being shite. And, through it all, there's been ups and downs, but this podcast has been the constant thing. It's been something to look forward to every week, just knocking back with 3 of my mates and talking about Celtic. And I want to thank the 3 of you for that. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait for next year. And I sincerely hope once all this COVID shite is finally done and dusted, we can all get together and have a pint in person. I look forward to it.
Absolutely,
Sydney.
mate.
Yeah, Sydney, mate.
Absolutely.
Definitely happen.
Appreciate
My
your
allergies are
advice.
back. My allergies.
Is that Tom Rogic away again?
All right, guys. So, echo those thoughts, Liam. Appreciate it, guys. And, can't wait for next season. But until then, we've got next week's episode to get through. So, looking forward to that. Till then, how.
Hell.
Hell.
Job it.